Trying to boost my subscribers, I'm trying to maintain the vision. People that know me closest live different than what they show me. It's hard to feel like they know me when I'm just scrolling through images. Truth be told, I feel pain, but I'm on the pinnacle. Been chasing this music thing for a minute though. Know some good people that never see success. And here I am sitting worried about show appearances.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angeline, and she's Risa, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 124 of With the Quickness.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, indeed. Today, we're going to share our takeaways from the December 11, 2022 sermon given at First Baptist Church of Lincoln Garden in Somerset, New Jersey, and a past sermon given at the Greater Allen A.M.E. Cathedral of New York in Jamaica, New York. So, Risa, what was your takeaways from First Baptist today?
That you must communicate frequently in order to regulate any problems or issues.
Okay. My big takeaway was a proper love should expand you and challenge you to grow. Now, what was your big takeaway from Greater Allen A.M.E. Cathedral of New York?
That we shouldn't focus on what we don't have. We should more so focus on what we do have.
Okay. My big takeaway was be grateful enough to let your life be a testimony of God's goodness and know that God loves you and that he cares. Okay, we're going to get more into those sermons a little later in the show, but right now it's time for Risa's playlist. Risa, what's the song of the week this week?
Are we ready? It's time.
We narrowed it down to one song. This is Song of the Week, currently featured on With the Quickness Spotify playlist.
The song of the week is by Anita Wilson, featuring Rubi Green and Kincy. The song is called Out Here, Trusting God. It's from her 2021 album titled Soul Sister. The song is just her basically talking about what happens when you are trusting God in your life and the great things that he can do for you. Miss Anita Wilson has been in the business since 2011. She's been mostly doing her music consists of contemporary R&B and jazz, so she has like a 90s feel to it, and this is like her fourth album. So she is pretty good. She was featured on a Red Hands album, so that's how I found her. But her music is really, really good.
Okay. How old is she? And what is her musical style like on this song?
So this is like a mid-tempo song. I'm not sure how old she is. So I couldn't really find that available online, but she is like, she's like, I don't know how old she is though. I wasn't looking at her age.
Oh, that's okay. I just want to know if she was like, your age, if she's an older lady.
No, she's older than me. Like she's not in her 30s, I don't think.
Oh, okay. So musicality on this song, her musicality on this song would be rap, country, pop. What is she?
It would be R&B.
R&B on this song? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you went back to your R&B roots a little bit.
Yes.
And it has a nice tempo to it. And did the message really touch you? That's why you picked it?
Yeah, the message touched me because she was singing about, the benefits of like how your life can increase when you are trusting God. So that's why I chose it.
Well, it's a beautiful song, and it actually adds to what both of the sermons are about today. So thank you so much. Anyone that wants to send you a song, they can send it to your email address, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and her email address is risa@withquickness.com. You can learn more about the song, this week's song of the week, at withthequickness.com by going to our playlist tab and actually seeing a video for the song there. She does have a video, I hope, right?
Well, this song came out in 2021, so
I think there might be a lyric video.
There might be a lyric video on YouTube, possibly.
Okay, so if a video is available, we will definitely link it there. And then also, she's on our Spotify playlist, so definitely check her out and show her some love and some support. Thanks so much, Risa.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's go on to the bulk of our show, which deals with the sermons that are given. And let's stop first at First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens. That's our home church. It's the home of With the Quickness. So today, during Sunday service, the praise and worship singers and musicians set the tone for the Culinary Institute to light the candle of love for Advent season. the culinary ministry. They express their love to the community with everything they do in the kitchen and outside the kitchen. They feed our bodies and they feed our souls. Today, 15 people took the right hand of fellowship. And Pastor Quick took a moment to turn us to Galatians 2, verses 1 through 21 of the New Revised Standard Version to tell us more about the right hand of fellowship. So when you get an opportunity, please check that out before you listen to his sermon. If you're not quite sure why different people in the Baptist faith, different churches of the Baptist faith extend the right hand of fellowship. He also explained that God is love. And he spoke about his grandparents and how much he missed them and how grateful he was for their existence in his life. And then he called forward police officers and members of the security ministry to acknowledge them and to pray over them as they work so hard to keep all of us safe, especially in the holiday season. And I'm glad he did, because I had no idea that the story that I'm going to tell in the Bema Seat deals with one of our law enforcement people. So I had no idea it was going to correlate. So things are kind of working together pretty good, Risa, between your song and the Bema Seat. Everything we're doing the show is on the same thread, Risa. Very
Yes.
happy about that.
Yes.
Everything's on the same thread. All right. So let's go into the sermon that Pastor Quick gave. It was titled, I Know Something You Don't Know. It's not based on any song that I know of, and he didn't refer to one. But this, the speaker this Sunday was Reverend Dr. Danté R. Quick. The scripture he referred to was Luke chapter 24, verses 44 through 53 of the New Revised Standard Version. Now, in this part of the gospel, it takes place on the evening of Resurrection Sunday among an unspecific number of followers. At seeing the resurrected Jesus, they shift from terror to disbelieving and still wondering. And despite various proofs, their wondering do not seem to dissipate drastically. In these verses, we're reminded that Jesus came and lived among us as one of us. He loved us so much that he would rather die for us than live without us. However, God's power enabled him to triumph over sin, death, and the tomb master himself, Satan. We can now have the victory in Jesus, and our future can be fused into his future. In the intro, Pastor Quick reminded us that, first of all, that it's so hard to believe it's almost Christmas. You know, we're at December the 11th already. He reminded us of jingles like the one for Toys R Us, I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid. And he talked about holiday sales. We said there's a lot of great holiday jingles going on right now. I mean, and the Toys R Us one is one that I do think about when it comes to this time of year, little kids wanting certain things under the tree. And now that you're an auntie, do you feel the pressure to go and get some of those toys for little ones?
I do feel the pressure a little bit, but you know, my funds can only go so far. So
no, I know exactly. So all of us are hearing about what people want for Christmas and the desires. And like you said last week, you're kind of through most of your shopping. Me too. I'm kind of like over it, you know. He said a lot of people want for nothing. They have an expectation on kind of material things this time of year. And that led him into what he really wanted to talk about this week, which is our expectations and how we kind of set ourselves up for disappointment. He said, women sometimes say okay to things their husbands say. When he gave an instance where the husband wanted to go out and she's going, okay. And he goes, no, I'm going to hang out with my friends. She goes, okay. And, you know, I'm going to be back later. Okay. Have a good night. Okay. And then when he does come back, she's ticked off, you know. And then he also talked about how men that are married to their wives kind of have an expectation that they do everything their mother did, that they dote over them the way their mother doted over them. That's an unrealistic expectation also. He said, oftentimes we have expectations that are two things, he said, not realistic and not communicated. Those are the two things that kind of happens when you have unrealistic expectations. Pastor Quick also talked about his son's successful semester at Morehouse College. Alexandra was able to attend a Drake concert and have a lot of great experiences on this historical HBCU campus. Now, Reverend Dr. Quick said success for him at Morehouse was more about attaining a certain GPA. That was his expectations as a father. So just because, you know, one person has one vision of expectation of what's successful doesn't mean it can be an alignment. You have to talk about it and have the communication. Pastor Quick stated that we can learn something from an article that he found about what corporations need to do to meet the expectations of their clients. So he read 6 things to us and kind of translated it into our expectations. Here's the 6 points, and I hope you take a listen to his sermon to figure out, to listen to how he translated it to the congregation. One of the points for these corporations, how they can meet client expectation, is to build a relationship that goes beyond the client-vendor relationship. 2, they must regularly communicate problems with clarity. Same thing goes in our personal relationships, right? 3, you have to agree on a common goal, standard, and the timelines. Same thing when we're dealing with each other in our relationships. 4, be a counselor. I mean, he shared his thoughts about when he had some time one summer to spend time with Reverend Dr. Katie G. Cannon, and she's a American Christian theologian. She's done a lot of great work. She wrote, I think, a book on the Black church and homosexuality and our views and the views of the Black church. So he definitely talked about how she taught him vital things about inclusion. And that was very important. Number 5, he said, be a good listener. It's very important for corporations and for us as people to talk to each other. And 6, budget. And the way he translated budget to us was count up the cost by doing a critical evaluation of your relationships. That's how he's saying budget, like count up the cost in that way. He said many people are disappointed by people that actually told them the truth in the beginning. And that goes back to the Maya Angelou statement where he's like, when they show you who they are, believe them, right? Yeah. And it's true. Some people can show you exactly who you are, but if you kept an expectation in your mind that they would be a certain way, it can throw you off course. And I know in business, you might have experienced that like me too. You think a person was so great in the interview and so, can't wait to work and full of life about it. And then they have a problem, getting to work, wanting to work. They're, not happy with the assignments they're given. They kind of feel like, wow, this job is not what I really want to do. But in the interview, they said this is exactly what they wanted to be and what they wanted to do. And now you're realizing, yeah, you don't really like customer service or frontline work or whatever the issue might be. Have you noticed that too in business? Like you get that bait and switch sometimes?
Oh yeah, like I feel like that does happen a lot because a lot of people just want a job. So they'll just say whatever just so they can, just so they can get a paycheck, but then like once they start doing the work, they realize like it's not really for them. Mm-hmm. So that, I feel like as of lately that hasn't happened a lot, but I want to say before the pandemic, yeah.
Like these days it's more a person that's in the seat doing the interview. The interviewee has more weight these days than the people that are interviewing them, because they know they can put out resumes at multiple places. And yes, they can do interviews with you today, someone else yesterday, and someone tomorrow. And if you don't come back with an offer they like, you basically, are going to say goodbye to a good candidate. And if they actually put in a resume to you at a certain time in a month and you don't get to them quick enough and extend the interview, they've already moved on to look at somewhere else. You can't assume they're just waiting for you because you are a certain corporation that a lot of people like to work at. That used to be what we did at Rutgers. It's like people want to work there so badly. We have tuition remission for your kids to go to school there. We have great benefits. You can work on your own degrees if you work there. But now it's like, that's not enough.
Right.
Some people want more better quality of life or less stress, or they want to learn certain skill sets. So they learn in different jobs, or they want to work at home and have a hybrid or something like that. So there's so many more things on the table now that's competing with the great benefits you think you have. Right, that makes a person go, I don't know if I want to do it. So you've noticed that too.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I feel like with the introduction of the hybrid, like a lot of people are just like, especially if they have kids or if they are the caregiver, like it has to make sense for them in order to want to do the job.
And corporations and businesses have to keep in mind too, a lot of people died in the pandemic. A lot of people that and they left people that had to be cared for by new people. Okay, you might have had a babysitter that you loved and adored. It was your aunt so-and-so, but she might be gone because of COVID. So now the family has to be restructured to care for the kids in a different way. Different models are popping up on how people are trying to manage, children at home. And then we had parts where the schools were closing and people had to learn to teach their children. Mm-hmm. And when you start getting in that role where you're seeing what your child is learning, maybe you say, this is not the school for my kid. They're not learning what I thought they were learning, because now you're looking at the package they're getting, right? And you say, I might want to change their school, or you might not want to live this kind of life. You might want to move back home and do stuff like that. A lot of people moved and went closer to family during this because they had a lot of people that died and passed away. Some people's healths were affected, a lot of stress. a lot of cancer, and a lot of that came up because of the stress of the pandemic. And people's mental states became, that means more to me than working for you. I want a good environment, one that's nurturing in a certain way, and the one that I feel good about and doesn't stress me out.
Right.
So,
I feel like that was one of like the top two things that I was hearing like a lot, like on the news and stuff. A lot of people were like, I don't want a job that's stressful, and I don't want a job that negatively impacts my health. If either of those two are affected, then people were just leaving.
I noticed the same thing in my courses. Like if you were a professor that wasn't being a little more flexible with the timelines of things and giving a little more grace, oh, those students were like, I don't need to take this course right now. They'll drop the course and take it another semester, because why get stressed out? Because it's stressful enough going through a pandemic or trying to get back in the classrooms and worried about, your grandmother that's now on a respirator, or a mother that's missing her sister that passed away during COVID. It's too much stress. I don't want to add to the stress of my students. I want them to do the work and meet the objectives of the class, but I don't want to stress them out to the point where they're like, they don't like their education. Right. I mean, it's supposed to be, enlightenment, supposed to be, a good thing. So I like how Pastor Quick says, if someone loves you, they're trying to get you to grow in that way. Right. So I really, really love that. So let's go back into the sermon. He said, after he talked about those points, he also reminded us, when he's talking about transparency and people show you who they are, like the truth of them in the beginning, he reminded the congregation that he was very, very transparent when during his candidacy to become the senior pastor of First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens. It's a long process. And he was very transparent every time you talked to him, every time he was interviewed or asked a question about where he stood on a lot of issues. And he told people, if what I'm saying does not jive with you, please don't vote for me. But he got installed. And so now that people are like, might be feeling some kind of way about some of the tactics or some of the things that he's implementing, they got to look back at every tape meeting that he had and everything he said. And he's been pretty much transparent and on point. He has been consistently who he said he is.
Right.
He went on to talk a little bit about Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, and the HBCUs a little bit. And I'm glad he did, because, Deion Sanders made a big move that some people are really reeling about. That some people honestly believe he should have stayed at a historical Black college or university and he had 2 championships. He could keep it going. And Deion Sanders did a lot, though. He gave them a whole new field. He changed their locker rooms. He has more ticket sales and more attention to the team than they ever had before. Championships happened there. So I don't understand why people are saying, forget you. And they weren't using the word forget. That's the one I use, 'cause I'm a Christian. They were saying, right, forget you and we don't need you, and saying terrible things when he made his announcement. I would have thought at the last game, they'd be rushing to the field to put him on the shoulder saying, you did so much for us. This is great. We're going to miss you, but you had an impact. And if it doesn't work out, come on back, is what I thought was going to happen. But the way they're acting is like, if it doesn't work out in Colorado, will he want to come back? I don't know.
Well, I guess because, like, if you think about it, like, again, like, I didn't even realize this until Pastor Quick had even said it. Like, HBCUs they were not built to be like football schools. They were meant to basically like create lawyers, doctors, etc., so forth.
Business people. Exactly.
Yeah, business people. So it's like when people saw what Deion did, they were like, oh, well, he should keep going. But it's like he can only go but so far. So yeah, if he has his own personal goals that he's trying to make, and he did all that he can with the team, I don't see why anybody's like getting upset about it. Like, if that's the case, then go back to the actual structure of the school and get it changed to be a football school, but it's not.
Yeah, and I like what Ricky Smiley said. He's a radio host, and he said because of Deion's activism and what he's been so vocal about the importance of giving back to the HBCUs, he actually wrote a check to a historical Black college that needed the money. And he wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for Deion. I'm hoping other football players that are retired or are coming off the field might think about coaching now more than sports casting and sitting, in a nice tailored suit and with a camera in their face talking about the game. That it will actually instead say, you know what, I want to go coach and pour into those young men and make the game better and bring awareness.
That's what I honestly hope what happens, because instead of all this like getting upset about Dion, hey, if he left, like whomever wants to complain about it, why don't you throw your hat in the ring and see what you can do to
Yeah.
actually take the baton from what Dion has done and see if you can take it any further. If you can't, then like don't say anything. What is there to complain about? Like, I'm so tired of people just complaining about things instead of trying to be the solution. If you're saying that HBCU should be a part of, the football schools, and Dion did what he could, and he decided to leave, and you are a retired football player or a coach, and you feel like they should be included, then why don't you throw your hat in the ring and see what you can do?
Yeah. I think everyone can make a difference if they try, but you can't put all the burden of change on one person. I mean, he did do change. I mean, if you look at the school, he implemented change, and then now people are mad that things have to change again. And that's one thing about life. It doesn't stay the same. We're either growing or we're dying. So the team is doing great, 2 championships. Hopefully the next coach that steps into Coach Prime's shoes will continue the legacy of of what the school is doing, and building champions there, and getting to have the same media, ESPN and Sports Illustrated, and everybody's still looking at the school because they're doing great work there. I mean, you don't have to look at one person did it. Those students on that field, they did it too. They did it too.
And maybe Dion will like inspire other people, like you said before, other coaches or other retired players to go to other HBCUs and try to, whether it's football, basketball, at least get involved with the schools and see what they can do. Because if everybody remembers, I want to say about a year ago, there were a couple HBCUs that were in the news because there was some housing issues. So again, let's just try our best to help out before we judge somebody.
Exactly. I mean, that's so true. I remember when Howard University had a big sit-in,
right?
And we were talking about that at one point. So yeah, I totally remember that. And there's room for change for not just people in the sports arena, but business people can go back and help out at HBCUs. I mean, they're looking for people to teach and to pour in and to contribute to their fundraisers like every other school. Okay. Now, Pastor Quick went on to say that Jesus taught us 3 important lessons from the scriptures that he gave us from Luke. And they're this. 1, love emancipates perspectives. If Jesus has opened your eyes, then you should see the world differently. We don't serve a narrow God. And that's when Pastor Quick spoke of Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown Douglas. Her book, Sexuality in the Black Church, A Womanist Perspective, which was published in 1999, was groundbreaking for openly addressing homophobia in the Black church. 2, he said, love designs directives to develop. A proper love should expand you and challenge you to grow. He talked about how we had a jazz concert in the sanctuary of First Baptist, and how we had a revival, a gospel revival in a tent outside of a multi-million-dollar building. Pastor Quick spoke about books he made his children read in their teenage years, Art of War and The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee. And I want to give you a little fun fact. Do you know The Spook That Sat by the Door, that director Lee Daniels is currently working on a FX drama and a feature film with that novel? So wow.
Oh, wow.
And so Pastor Quick, if you're listening, you didn't know, there's some stuff coming our way that's going to be featured on that book that you make sure your children read. And the third item he said that Jesus taught us was love incites security. You can't do anything great being insecure. He brought up Deion Sanders again, and Stephen Curry, how they speak so highly of themselves. He even spoke about a time that he was on a call with Pastor T.D. Jakes, and how he spoke highly of himself in First Baptist, just like T.D. Jakes was speaking highly of the Potter's House. He said, God made him who he is, and he is not going to be insecure about that. I love that, Risa, because we started our podcast featuring Pastor Quick and Pastor Bishop T.D. Jakes at the same time, because that was your church at one point.
Right.
But now you came over to First Baptist, and so now we're actually talking about the other pastors in the United States, not just Pastor Quick and Bishop Jakes. We're now in the Bishop Jakes spot. We now talk about other people. And he has a big enough megaphone. I don't think he minds at all. And I know the other pastors are kind of happy that people get to listen to different sermons that they took their time to put together and prepare to get heard. So I think it's been a really good payoff. But what do you think about him saying that, don't be insecure about anything?
I don't think you should be insecure. Like,
It's hard though, Risa. It's hard.
Yeah, trust me. I'm from someone that actually like deals with that. Like it is a struggle, but I think you should value the gifts that you were given. And even though you may be in the room with someone that, that is great at what they do, you're also great at what you do as well. And you shouldn't downplay or like try to make yourself smaller because somebody else is in the room.
Yeah. When I first started working for the university, I used to be very, very impressed with people with PhDs. I used to be like, oh, whatever they say, they just know everything. Oh my gosh, they're just wonderful people. And then I realized as you really started working day to day with people that have PhDs, that just means they know a lot about a specialized area. They can still not know how to fax something. They can still not know how to work the Keurig machine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, because it just means they know a lot about a particular topic. That's all. It doesn't mean that they have superpowers or that they're godlike. They're people. And I loved how Pastor Quick says he's a human being having a human experience like the rest of us.
Right.
He is not godlike. He is, he's a work in progress like we are. So that means he has insecurities too.
Right, but it's just that like sometimes some people get intimidated because of someone else's accolades. Like,
yeah.
So like I can understand why some women be like, oh my gosh, like this person has a PhD and all I have is a bachelor's. It's like, oh, but that bachelor's is still a big deal. Like,
Yeah, but they don't have a podcast like you, woman. So I think they might be like, I have this and this, but I can't do what she's doing right now because I have a thing about public speaking or I have a thing about being on camera. You know what I'm saying? We all have different talents and stuff. And, I look at Mariah Carey, the elusive chanteuse, the Queen of Christmas. Yes, I'm going to call her that. Y'all want to say who's calling her that? I'm the one calling her that, along with all the Lamely and Reese's Pardon Lamely. Yes. She is the Queen of Christmas. She sings, and some people look at her and go, wow, I don't know if I could ever sing like that. And they probably get starry-eyed. But there's also a 5-year-old kid that probably walks right up to Mariah and go, I sing like you. I can sing your song. And they're happy about their ability to sing, and carry a tune along with her when they listen to her albums.
Right.
Speaking of music, did you know what happened with Celine Dion this week?
Yes.
I felt so bad that she's going through a medical situation where it's affecting her ability to perform.
Yeah, my prayers definitely go out to Celine. I hope she, gets well soon because I know she is battling a incurable medical disease at the moment.
What's it called? Stiff neck syndrome, I think they said.
Yeah, I know it's
or stiff body or something like that.
It's something stiff. I can't remember the exact term, but I know she did say that she is working with a medical team to help her get better because she had to cancel some of her shows.
Yeah, and that's a person that has been comfortable in who she is, ever so gracious with her talent, but at the same time, she's been very truthful in her walk. From her marriage to her, her singing ability to, her touring, everything about her. And your father adores Celine Dion. So I know he probably took this hard. Right. A lot of people did, because I listened to her voice and you think power, you think elegance, you think beauty. And to think of her not being able to sing reminds me of when Julie Andrews, when she had the surgery and couldn't sing after that. Mm-hmm. Because her vocal cords were, they did she was supposed to be removing some nodules, and the surgery did not go well because of their negligence, I believe, because she got awarded money from that. I believe, allegedly, I got to look that up. I haven't looked it up before the podcast, but to have her not singing, and I knew her as Maria on the top of the mountain singing The Hills Are Alive, and I played that musical so many times, The Sound of Music. And to think of her not being able to sing and watching her with Dick Van Dyke, singing Supercalifragilistic. I watched her as a kid, being Mary Poppins.
Right.
She was like, wow, voice like an angel. And to think of, her talent gone, we lost Whitney. Now people can't use their voices. I'm feeling some kind of way.
I know it's one of those really like unfortunate things, but I really do hope and pray that like Celine gets better, because I know singing to her is like her life, and she loves to sing and she loves to perform. So I really do hope she's able to
Yeah.
get better. So
Because she was part of the Trinity that most people think about. They think about Whitney, Celine, and Mariah. That was the Trinity of the singers of the 80s, 90s that were like the voices, you know?
yeah.
And to have Whitney gone and Celine now, you know, battling medically to fight for her voice, all I can think of is everybody needs to pray for Celine and everybody needs to cover Mariah. I don't want nothing to happen to her voice either. Can we please see her go into her golden years? Both of these ladies go into their golden years, because losing Whitney was a big hit for us.
Yeah, it was definitely it was very unfortunate. And I know on Twitter, like all three of them are considered a part of the vocal trinity. So that's the trinity that my mother is referring to. So that's why a lot of people were extremely shocked and saddened by, you know, what is currently going on with Celine. But we definitely, you know, want to pray over her.
Yes, pray.
And also pray over Mariah that nothing else happens, because we just can't afford.
Yeah, they're a treasure. They're national treasures. Pastor Quick sermon, I Know Something You Don't Know, was live streamed on December the 11th, 2022 on the FBC Somerset YouTube channel. When you get a moment, please check it out. We don't even do it any justice compared to how it really was to listen to it from beginning to end. It was a very powerful sermon, one that's going to remind you of the importance of your perspective and what you are putting out with your expectations and others' expectations of you. So please check it out. Now let's go on to Greater Allen A.M.E. Cathedral of New York in Jamaica, New York. They posted a December 4th, 2022 sermon that we'll know that you're going to enjoy. It was titled No Gift Too Great. The speaker was Reverend Dr. Elaine M. Flake. On May the 3rd, 2021, Reverend Dr. Flake was appointed pastor of Greater Allen A.M.E. Cathedral in New York by Bishop Gregory G.M. Ingram. Dr. Flake succeeds her husband, the Reverend Dr. Floyd H. Flake, who was the church's long-serving pastor who retired last year after over 40 years of service. So he's now pastor emeritus. Okay, and his lovely wife now takes the full reins. No more co-pastor for her. She's taking the full reins of being senior pastor of Greater Allen. She started her sermon with scripture in Luke chapter 7, verses 36 through 39. Like most Pharisees, Simon no doubt kept the laws of holiness and thought that God was more pleased with him than any socially despised people such as tax collectors and prostitutes. He therefore was very surprised that Jesus allowed a prostitute to wash his feet with her tears. In Simon's view, this showed that Jesus did not have a divine knowledge. Otherwise, he would not have let that sort of person touch him. So that's where we're starting in the scripture. Now let's go and see how Reverend Dr. Flake uses that scripture in her message. She said, "This woman speaks for us. She exemplifies gratitude and how gratitude should be lived. When you are truly grateful, your attitude should reflect that kind of appreciation. Gratitude shapes your personality and the way people relate to God and others." She said, "We are disciples of Christ and we must give and show our thanks and gratitude in ways that are authentic." Now, she said there's 3 ways that prevent people from showing gratitude. 1 is focusing on what we don't have instead of what we do have. 2 is comparing ourselves to other people or wanting someone else's possessions. And 3 is feeling entitled for things that we've received, like thinking that everything that we possess was well deserved and we have no appreciation for what God has given to us. So it's our job as believers of Christ to remember to never forget to praise God for his grace and for his blessings. She said, "Be grateful enough to let your life be a testimony of God's goodness and know that God loves us and takes care of us. Live a life that demonstrates your thanks to God because you cannot thank him enough." So Risa, do you feel the same way? I feel this way too. I feel like I can't think of one thing in my life that I shouldn't be thanking him for, from my health to my home, to my jobs, to even having the ability to have bills that I can pay for. Is a blessing. What about you?
Yeah, I feel like everything that I have, as far as like my health, like my job, like I give him like the utmost praise and like, respect for that. So
And she said our lives should be like a testimony. We should be living our lives in a way that shows our thanks. I mean, I don't think she's saying that we have to shout his name all the time, but people should know we're believers by the way we act. They should know we're Christians by the way we treat other people and how we treat ourselves and how we fellowship with each other and by our works in the community. That's why I'm so excited that a lot of churches do great like toy drives and clothing drives, and they feed their senior citizens or they feed the homeless, and they do works in the community. I love that because it shows the works. It's not just saying we're Christians, it's showing, yes, we're grateful for everything you gave us, Lord. We're going to pay our tithing and we're going to use this tithing to help others.
right,
Love that.
as we should. I feel like, when you are blessed in that way, like you should give back to your community.
Now, this podcast, for instance, I think this is our ministry. We give back in this way. We don't get paid for this. We had one investor that gave us, a little seed money in the beginning. I think a couple $100 to get us started, and nothing since. Every single episode has been totally us, and I thank God for the technology. I thank God that our Wi-Fi works on both sides. I thank God for the microphones, the lights, the things that we were able to pay out of our own funds to get this, running, and to have the resources already at our fingertips that could help. I'm extremely grateful for the knowledge he gave us for even using the Adobe Creative Suite to get out our podcast in audio and video form on the YouTube. I know the YouTube form has been slacking because it's been a very heavy semester for me and a very full of change couple months for Risa.
Yes.
So yeah, we're going to get back to the putting everything up on YouTube. But we've always said we are first a podcast, and we're on every place you can stream one, and being internationally is a blessing. So I really feel like we are showing our gratitude to God by having this, because he put it on our hearts to do it, and we're still doing it.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely. She went on to say, the woman with the alabaster box sobbed, washed, and anointed Jesus' feet. She didn't care what others thought. She was only concerned about giving back to the Lord and demonstrating her gratefulness. We must let our lives be a testimony of God's grace. He said some people may have felt certain ways regarding this lady's past, right? But when your heart is filled with God's love, and when you are focused on Jesus, you really don't care about public opinion. Your gratefulness will also move you to treat others differently and to clean up your act. So I really loved her sermon. I think it was tremendously powerful. I think it's one that everyone needs to listen to. And it goes quite nicely with Pastor Quick's sermon. His talked about expectations and hers talked about gratitude. Really, really nice. So you can view Reverend Dr. Elaine M. Flack's December 4th, 2022 sermon, No Gift Too Great, on the Greater Allen Cathedral Church's YouTube channel. When you get a moment, please check it out. So let's go on to the screening room.
It's time for that weekly movie review in the screening room.
Risa, we had another Christmas movie this week and we watched it together. How did you love it? Did you like it? What did you think?
I really, really liked it. It was a really good movie.
Okay, then let's tell them what it was. We watched Kirk Franklin's A Night Before Christmas, written by Tara Knight, directed by Talia Baron. The stars Notori Nelson, Lorna Turner, Luke James, Kurt Franklin, Will Oliver, John Ivory Wallell, Janar Banera, Aspen Kennedy Wilson, and others. Here's a brief synopsis. Okay, caught in a blizzard on Christmas Eve, estranged mother and daughter, Journey and Nia, are forced to take refuge inside of a church, where a handful of also trapped parishioners are reeling from the cancellation of the annual holiday concert. The spirit of the season takes hold as Journey and Nia weather the wintry storm together with the other churchgoers, including a handsome young youth pastor and a heavenly music teacher, who motivate the mother and the daughter to reconcile their differences through music, faith, and love. With the help from this unlikely yet spirited group of strangers, Journey and Nia band together to help the church salvage not only their holiday traditions, but also their show-stopping Christmas Day performance, despite a raging storm developing outside. The themes of this are family, love, forgiveness, community, mother-daughter, Christmas, traditions, believing, and love. Yeah, it was really good. Risa, a mother-daughter. We're a mother-daughter team, but there's times we don't get along. There's times that other mothers and daughters don't get along.
Right.
And to be trapped with your mother when you don't like her, yeah, I know you can speak on that. How hard and difficult is that for a young person?
That's very difficult because all you want to do is just like run away.
Yeah, you're like, that's the last person you want to see, last person you want to deal with, last person you want to hear their voice. There's many times when young people, and even as you get older and being older adults, being adult children, there's times that you just don't want to see your parents or hear from your parents. You just want to live your own life. But the one beautiful thing that God has put for every parent that has poured into their children with the words of Christ and the gospel, you teach your child the way they should go. They don't really depart too far from it. They might go do their thing, but eventually they hear the promptings of the Holy Ghost and the things they should do. And eventually, I like the fact that this movie, both of them were open enough to listen to people within the church. People don't realize how much that community of believers, they can hear problems and things, and they can steer you back to what's right to do as a believer. Because you could talk to the world about, not liking your mom or dad for whatever reason, and the world could tell you, yeah, you're right, you should never talk to them again. But church always reminds you, that's your family. You got to work it out. How bad could it be? If something happened to them tomorrow, you'd be crushed, And you go, no, I won't go to the funeral. Some people say that, I won't go to the funeral. I don't care. But you do care. And when you have a family of your own, your husband or daughter or your wife will care. Your children will care. The dog will care. Everybody will care, as you're trying not to care. So if you can work it out, work it out. And if not, it's time to get some therapy and come to terms with it. Like, why is it something you can't deal with? I mean, I had my own bout where I was estranged from my mother for a moment. And I had my reasons and everything else, but when it came down to it, my mother's not getting any younger. I knew my husband, a good husband, kept saying, "And you got to work that out." My best good girlfriend's like, "You got to work that out." You get the nagging, you get the I don't want, and the Holy Ghost will not leave you alone. And the reason why He doesn't leave you alone is because it's not good to have estrangement and such breaks in a family over petty things, over small things that could be talked out. Right. It's one thing to be in a child-parent relationship that was abusive or violent and things of that sort, where it's too hard to come back from without the help of medical personnel like therapists involved and law enforcement and everything else. I mean, maybe that's a bigger thing to deal with. But if it's something like you had a disagreement, or you had a different perspective on something that happened, that stuff can be worked out. Right. And even siblings have the same thing too, right? Can't siblings also have that same kind of challenge, and cousins and best friends also have those things they just have to talk out, to work out?
Yeah, like I just think the main thing is like both parties just have to talk, and they have to want to talk. Like, if one person only wants to talk and the other person doesn't want to talk, then you're pretty much like, you got your answers. Like no response is a response.
Yeah, and that's why the Holy Ghost is so powerful, because He'll say, okay, you want some distance for a time? Cool, take your distance. But if you call yourself a believer, and we call ourselves believers, then you always leave the door open. You have to, for family, because that's what it's all about. And I love how this story dealt with this, because at holiday times when everybody's thinking of family, either the family you lost, the family you're with, or the family you hadn't talked to in a while. And like we learned last Sunday, the holiday blues is a big thing. A lot of people take their lives during the holidays. A lot of people die and have heart attacks. My brother-in-law had a heart attack, just last week. So it happens. You have these difficult things that happen in the family. You're like going, wow, let me not take life for granted. Just as quickly as I'm here, I could be gone, Right. So I love the fact that everyone in the church was kind of working to get them to work it out. And I also like the fact that they had these two deacons, the husband and wife that were deacons, and they were like, they could sing their behinds off. They were in the kitchen cooking and singing and at the start of the movie.
Mhm.
And they had such a lovely tone. The way they were with the pastor, the youth pastor, going, "Come on, pastor. You know you haven't dated in a long time. You know you kind of like that girl." And they would go ask the girl, "You know you kind of like him." They were kind of playing matchmaker. I kind of like
Right.
that kind of feel of the movie. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was cute. That was a cute moment.
And especially when one of the deacons, she asked everyone, they're all sitting there waiting for the storm to be over. You know, they just had a scare where the lights, the power went off and then it got back on. And she's like, "Well, we have a toy drive. We're trying to get these toys and these packages ready for the morning. And no one can get in to help us that would normally be here to help us, but all of you are here. Why don't you help?" And then any volunteers? And you know how it is at church, you ask for volunteers, people were like looking around saying who else is going to volunteer. And the pastor volunteered and then other people. And it was really nice to see the scene of all the saints, all the parishioners there working together
Hmm.
for another common good. That's what I love about Pastor Quick. He says, "We're going to do this today. We're going to do a clothing drive, or we're going to do get everything in your house and we're going to sell it in the parking lot to whoever in the greater community, just clean out stuff and do a big swap meet or whatever." I love that we do those kind of things because it makes us realize it's bigger than us. Whatever petty thing you're thinking about, like the mother and the daughter started dancing together with when they turned on the music as they were making the packages. And I
Mhm.
love that. And then she said to her after they danced, "You know, I didn't mean, any harm of what I said before. I hope you understand I love you." And she's like, "I love you too, Mom." I love that. All it
Mhm.
took was a little dancing and doing a project to make them realize we still connected. Let's stop making it a big thing. It's a small thing.
Right.
I love that. So if you get a chance to watch this movie online, it's going to be streaming on Lifetime for the month of December. It's called Kirk Franklin's The Night Before Christmas. The music is beautiful, right? Rita, did you love all the songs? I loved all the songs.
Yeah, the music was like, it was really, really good.
Yeah, I can't think of one song I didn't like. I think I liked every song I heard. And I think they were all written by Kirk Franklin.
I believe so.
Yeah, and I hope everyone gives it a chance. And I think he's done a lot of things each year at Christmas. He does at least one Christmas movie a year for Lifetime. 'Cause I think they showed a couple before this one came on, and loved it. Loved everybody in it. And you can actually see a trailer of the movie on our website with thequickness.com. So if you want to check it out and then go to lifetime.com to actually watch the movie itself, that would be great. I mean, I'm sure they would love to get the message out there about this Christmas tradition that Kirk Franklin has given the network. So let's go on now to Before the Bema Seat.
Come before the Bema Seat. Come before the Bema Seat. Where life's journeys and stories meet. Every week, testimony of the one who brings hope and victory. With joy and reverence, we will sing our praises to the King of Kings, the Bema Seat. Come before the Bema Seat, the Bema Seat. Come before the Bema Seat.
Now, that's a section of our show that we would normally have an interview. We would usually have a person that we could talk to and ask particular questions to that would help new and rededicated Christians. But me and Risa have decided, because we haven't had anybody hit that email box or fill out that form, that we're going to find a story that is one that can be uplifting. And we're doing one since it's the month of December. We're doing them on the holiday, the Christmas holiday, kind of centered around that. So we picked one to this time from Craig Johnson. And this story of Craig Johnson shows how God helped him save Christmas for some sleeping children. And you heard me right, I said sleeping. Craig Johnson is a crime scene investigator, a CSI, for Los Angeles County. And it's like a 24 hours a day, 365 days a year kind of job, okay? Even on Christmas Eve. So when Craig went to bed that night, hoping to sleep until the morning, when his three daughters would normally rush in on Christmas morning and tell them to open up presents, that's what he's hoping will happen. Somewhere around midnight, his phone rang, and he was told by the dispatcher, "We need you at a crime scene." There had been a home burglary in the poor area of Los Angeles, and it couldn't wait until morning. And so the deputy told him that he needed to come and he'd give more details when he got there. And Craig said, I understand, and he was on his way. Craig drove to the location and the deputy met him at the door. The deputy said, try to be quiet because their children are sleeping. And he led Craig inside. A man and a woman were holding each other in a dimly lit hallway. Their eyes were red from crying. And Craig walked into the living room. Now he understood. Lying on its side was a skinny Christmas tree. Nothing but carpet where the Christmas presents should have been. We saved all year for those presents, the man said to Craig. Is there anything you can do? Well, determined, Craig dusted everything in the house for fingerprints. But there was no chance of solving a case without them. He really needed to find something. By tomorrow, anything that was stolen from that house would probably be history because tomorrow's Christmas. They would probably give those gifts to other people, right? But the thief had been pretty thorough. He couldn't find any fingerprints, no matter what he dusted. So eventually he gave up and said, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. And he started to walk out. And then he saw a golden glint shining right into his eyes as he's walking out, like something kind of flashed. It was too bright for him to ignore it. And he wondered what it was. And he swung the front door out of the way and he looked behind it. And he saw a little gold star tree topper. It couldn't have kind of rolled out of sight a little bit, but the burglar didn't touch it. But maybe he had. He wasn't sure. So he dusted it. And when he dusted the little topper, it revealed a full fingerprint that wasn't there before. So he went to the station. He got it to go against the records. And they were able to identify a suspect that lived right around the corner from the victims. He called the deputy and gave him the information, and then he drove back to the family's home. Greg pulled up the same time the deputy did. The suspect was handcuffed in the back of the police car. The deputy grinned and popped open the trunk of the suspect's car and saw it full of the stolen gifts. We got our man, he said and smiled. Yes, we did. But not without the help of that little star from behind the door in dim light that shone directly in the face of Craig Johnson. I love that story because just when you think you've done everything to get something done, and the whole time the kids are sleeping through all of this. Those kids have not a clue that their Christmas was destroyed and restored at the same time. All that evening before they wake up and run down the stairs and go, mommy, daddy, let's go open the presents. That's what kids know. They try to stay up as late as they can. They fall asleep. Then when they do wake up, they're ready for presents. And he saved their Christmas. I mean, I love it. I love it. Someone tried to play the Grinch and take all the presents from Whoville. And luckily, Greg Johnson and the deputies and the crew, they said, nope, you're not sleeping tonight. They called him and said, you got to come. You got to take care of this. It's important. It can't wait till the morning because the morning would have been the kids would have woke up without presents. Everybody cared enough about those kids and that family to try to solve it that night. Don't you love that story, Risa?
It was a very good story. Yes.
I like it. It has a nice, good Christmas feel. And I hope eventually those kids understood what happened when they were young. I hope it became a story in the family when they go, remember that Christmas when they were 5 and they almost didn't have a Christmas? And they were like, what do you mean? We almost didn't have a Christmas. I hope it's a good story that they can go back and tell about how community came together to make something happen during the holiday season. And I like it. I like how God and the Holy Spirit said, don't leave the house yet. Let that light flicker across his face. And he goes, what the hell is that?
Right.
And he realized the topper showed light. And the thing is, the hallway was not even that lit, that bright for anything to shine in his face. So you know that was nothing but God.
Right.
Yeah, love that story. If you would like to share a story of your own or one of your Christian experience, one that would inspire new and rededicated Christians, please visit www.withquickness.com and select the Bema Seat tab. There you can fill out the interview form so we can schedule a virtual interview. You can also email us at bemaseat@withthequickness.com to begin the guest process. Well, Risa, another episode down. We're getting closer to Christmas.
Yes, we are. 15 days left.
Yes, the Advent candle now has the love candle lit. And we're on this week. Hopefully we have a beautiful, blessed week. I know you have a lot of changes going on that you'll tell us about in the new year.
Yes.
And I personally am I have a couple of things that I'm working on too. So hopefully next year, as we get into 2023, we can ring it in and talk about great news together and keep this train on the track, as they say.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Any final words you would like to say to everyone listening about how they're going to get ready for the hustle and bustle of Christmas?
I just want everyone to stay safe while you're doing your last minute shopping, and I hope everyone has a great holiday.
Yeah, me too. I think those that are like waiting on gifts to come to your doorstep, please work with your neighbors if you're not able to get home and get your packages so that they can take them in, or they can keep a watch or let you know. Because the Amazon guy, the UPS, the FedEx guys that are putting stuff on, they're just putting them on the step, ring the doorbell, and they're getting back in their truck and they're doing the next package. They are busy, busy, busy. So please, I say look at your tracking information and make sure all of it's up to date. Make sure they send you your notifications so you can get those packages inside your house and not stolen by some little Grinch, and just have a really wonderful Christmas with your family. You know, really take care of yourself out here and try to get it done early. Try to get all your stuff done. Don't take it all the way up to the holiday if you can. It puts a lot of pressure on the FedEx and UPS and Amazon people that are trying to get us our packages. They want to have a good holiday too, so don't stress them out too much. Try to get it all done, guys, this week if you can. This week. All right. Everybody have a great holiday. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the other side on next Sunday. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
I've been trying to forget, but you won't let me. Something in my brain wants you. I've been hanging by myself, asking for help, but nothing seems to work on you.
With everything crazy, you're still my source of peace. You filter out the lows, you give me what I need.
Feel like, oh yeah, you never leave my thoughts alone. Yeah,
Disconnected, I feel the pressure, I need
you're
acceptance.
the reason I'm going out my mind. I just can't stop thinking about you got me feeling some type of way.
Feeling more solid about who the man in the mirror is.
You make me wanna stay in all day.
With everything crazy, you still my
You're
source
the
of peace.
reason